If I were to ask you to describe Rex Lapis and Arataki Ito, how would you do it? What characteristics would you be able to conjure up for the two of them, huh? Come on, guys, pitch in. Group activity, come on. Starting with Zhongli, let's see. We have refined. I think we can all agree he carries himself with a degree of vigor. Let's see, maybe sophisticated. That's another great one. He no doubt has a high level of cultural awareness. And finally, let's go with knowledgeable, given his understanding of various aspects of life. Now, moving on to the one and only Ito, I believe we can start off by calling him brutish. You know, often attempting to punch his way through life. Maybe he's blundering, thanks to being as smart as rock. And finally, he's a buffoon, because, well, you know, he's a buffoon. These two are no doubt complete opposites from one another, so why is it then that Venti would describe them in the same manner?
The Pyro Archon is a wayward, warmongering wretch, and the Geo Archon is a brutish, blundering buffoon. How do I know? Because this is written in the epic poems of days gone by.
For those of you that were hoping Ito would be described as a smart, sophisticated individual, I can't. Anyway, moving on. I think you all get why I'm choosing to highlight this voice line, given its implications for the Pyro Archon, because it raises some concerns. Either A, Venti is trolling with his description of Zhongli, and thus we can't really trust how he describes the Pyro Archon, or B, Zhongli was at one point Ito before Ito, a clumsy, mistake-prone, finesseless ape. Now, of these two options, which is the more likely to be true? But what if I told you? What if I told you there was a third option? Oh, I can hear you all gasping right now. Relax. And it's that the evil bastards that are the English localization team has struck again! In actuality, the voice line can be much better translated as, quotes, "The Pyro Archon is a tyrannical berserker who acts like an overlord, and the Geo Archon is a blockhead who doesn't understand mortal hearts." Well, if someone just don't butter me up sideways and stick a corn dog in me, and I don't just slap my knee out of pure revelation. So what you're saying is Rex Lapis isn't some sort of clumsy, hairless ape, but rather, like Kuching said, someone who thinks in tired old ways. Once again, English localization team, I tip my hat to you. For you... clearly, you niggas have the hardest job in the world. Be it a tyrannical overlord or a wayward warmongering wretch, both of these descriptions seem to fit into the idea that the Pyro Archon is some sort of authoritarian and belligerent god who seems to revel in warfare. Going into the manga further supports this description, as Venti informed Vanessa that people in Natlan used to hold rites of combat and celebrate victories in her name. Also, given Venti called Vanessa a, quote, flame-touched Muratan, and went on to state that the children of Murata are blessed with fiery red hair, it's safe to assume the Pyro Archon is a redhead. Look, all I'm saying is that this bitch is crazy enough to where Venti's calling her a tyrannical overlord and you niggas was bitching that the Raiden Shogun had too much power in Inazuma. Hold on to your seats, Buster. One other thing from the manga, which was kind of obvious but worth mentioning anyway, is the fact that Murata is both known as the Lady of Fire and the Lady of War. And finally, Venti did comment that the Lady of Fire was obnoxious, so I mean, there is that, I suppose. Given the Pyro Archon's fascination with war and miHoYo's story writing, it makes me wonder if the Pyro Archon is a warhawk for the sake of being a hawk and simply loves battle, or if it's similar to Fontaine, the endless battles serve another purpose. Just because remember how Nahida described Focalor before we got to Fontaine.
However, even then, Focalor will still make herself present at just about every trial. It seems that she just likes to immerse herself in that sort of atmosphere. As Archon, she still reserves the right to influence the final verdict. Anyway, let's just say she's got, a very unique personality.
And finally, when we got to Fontaine and we saw the amount of court cases there were, we simply assumed this was their nature. We all assumed the Hydro Archon simply loved to immerse herself in the courtroom, when in actuality, the reason there were so many court cases in Fontaine was to create the Holy Guillotine, and the reason Farina watched them all was to keep an eye out for the big one that Focalor told her about. It wasn't simply she was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when it came to court cases, she was acting like this for a very specific reason. This makes me wonder if the same thing is currently happening with the Pyro Archon, who's being built as this sort of Kratos in God of War 3, when in actuality they could turn out to be like a gigantic pussy that Tyr and Ragnarok was, or at least the fake one. While I don't think they do it, I mean, they did do the fake Archon thing 2 times, so You never know. But I am leaning towards the idea that the Pyro Archon is simply a tyrant who throws up her position or the gnosis or even her secrets to anyone who can defeat her in battle or just impress her in battle. Capitano. This could help to clue us in on what her Goetic name is, so everyone clutch onto that cross a little tighter. Back into the Book of the Damned we go. Of all the 72 demons in the Ars Goetia, there is one I came across that seems like a rather good fit for the Pyro Archon. Belial, the 68th listed spirit and one of the kings of hell. Belial is the first demon that was created after Lucifer, and as such, this makes Belial extremely powerful. Belial commands a great many number of demons. Belial takes the form of two angels riding a chariot of fire. One can learn of the secrets kept by King Belial, but they must first have offerings, sacrifices, or gifts ready. Belial is Hebrew for worthless, but one of the sayings synonymous with Belial is champion of humanity. Another thing you may hear about Belial is that he is often said to be masterless or without a master. Amongst the war in heaven, Belial was said to have slain a great number of angels, and furthermore, Belial was the first lieutenant in Lucifer's army. So that's about it for Belial. There are some common themes between it and Murata Fire, being the most obvious one. He leads many spirits, which I guess makes him authoritarian. I mean, it said he's killed many demons who went against the other kings of hell because he doesn't tolerate that sort of rebellion, which is kind of ironic when you consider it doesn't matter. Belial also being one without a master does tie into the idea of the Pyro Archon being a tyrant, as who is the master of a tyrant? Furthermore, Belial is also called the champion of humanity. It makes me wonder then, if the current Pyro Archon is similarly a champion of humanity who defeated the previous Pyro Archon for the role, given we know there has been at least 2 Archons. The two obviously aren't a one-for-one match, but I mean it's close enough that I wanted to bring it up. The most ambiguous thing relating to the Pyro Archon, however, is what she meant by her statement in the Pyro's gemstone, quote, "A pilgrimage for a wish, a battle to earn a name. Burnt to cinders for a dream. If the intention yet remains, achieved blank's truth he has." Yeah, it's censored. We don't know whose truth he is seeking, and more importantly, we don't know who he is. It could be that he's the one entombed with the primal fire, Jabba Balenk, but I mean, as it stands right now, it's way too early to tell. All we know from what the Pyro Archon is stating is someone is on a journey for a specific purpose, they battle for recognition, they may become burnt to cinders, whatever that means, in realizing this dream, and if through it all, the original intention remains, they will then learn the truth associated with blank. While at first this sounds like it could be the Traveler, soon to be story in Natlan, once again the Pyro Archon is using the pronoun he, so it can't be the Traveler. Blank's truth, however, could be the Pyro Archon's name, given we know from Dainsleif she has some secret she's going to share with the Traveler eventually.
The rules of war are woven in the womb. The victors shall burn bright, while the losers must turn to ash. When the god of war shares this secret with the Traveler, it is because she has her reasons.
That's really it with the Pyro Archon. Hoyo is keeping this one super close to heart, man. We don't know much about her, but we don't know nothing, which means we know something. I mean, low-key, isn't Liban, like, coming soon? He's, like, the only guy that tells us anything about Natlan, so, I mean, maybe he names drops the Pyro Archon. Couldn't even say it with a straight face.